Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. Today I'm talking about Survive Until Daylight, a brand new title from Flyos Games. If you're looking for a cooperative, pressure luck style little adventure game set in a post-apocalyptic zombie-infected world that's perfect for any family to get to the table, let's go ahead and take a closer look. This is Survive Until Daylight. Now, granted, I have everything sort of displayed out here so I can show off all the artwork and talk you through what's happening, but normally all of these item decks would be compressed into one little pile and you'll be going through the motions of digging for treasure, looking to upgrade and equip your different characters, and then going out on assaults to protect yourself from the various skirmishes that are happening in the game. The core objective of Survive Until Daylight is to survive. Survive through a total of 6 assault rounds where various different abominations and survivors will show up to munch upon your bones, assuming that they're able to get through your ranks. Every player is going to sit down and take one of various different asymmetric characters with different health stats and different starting equipment. Each of these characters will also have core abilities that allow you to manipulate or use different items in different ways. Now, the game is going to start by setting up and establishing an exploratory deck. That deck is going to include this little card right here, which is called the Wave card, and a pile of potential resources. Any number of these various items you see scattered around here could be hidden in this deck. I'll just grab a quick stack to kind of show you how it will look. We'll shuffle this up, and then one at a time, players will go around the table drawing from this pile. They're scavenging, they're looking for items, they're trying to equip themselves with guns, weapons, knives, holsters, potentially some old rotten newspaper and a fly swatter, which I think could be used for something. Possibly. Might just be junk. They'll be drawing from this deck of cards and attaching those cards to their characters, gaining abilities and slowly filling up their hands. The only issue is, eventually, you'll draw the Wave card. Now, the Wave card means you're going to trigger the first wave of enemies, like a tower defense system walking in your progression. That will be based off the assault card that you draw and the round that you're in. Depending on what your assault card is and which round you are, you'll spawn various different types of enemies. Wanderers, raiders, brutes, monsters, and of course, a few innocent survivors along the way. They'll spawn out here in a row on the top of your deck, and then you'll go around, turn by turn, engaging with them in combat, using things like guns and bullets to fire off shots and hitting, doing splash damage, or establishing a little bit of damage on each one of the enemies. Potentially drawing from this deck of cards here, which contains a whole slew of modifiers. The bit of randomness that you have when you fire a bow and arrow or throw a Molotov cocktail. You're hoping that you do extra damage, but there's a chance you don't, or there's a chance you're very ineffective altogether. Every character will take an action, trying to hit and ping and take down the enemies, with the lead player getting a little bit of an advantage on the top of the round. The object here is to wipe off as many as you can, because after every player has gone, those enemies will then trigger their abilities against you. So the determining factor is going to be, what are you able or willing to deal with? Now, let's say you drew the Wave card and you weren't ready for the battle to start. Well, that's perfectly fine. You can hunk off a piece of your own arm, toss it over into the forest, and, well, delay for a round. You'll reshuffle up this deck of cards, and you'll continue exploring. Here's the thing. The smaller this deck gets, the more you've explored the land you're in, the easier it will be to draw back up that Wave card. But every round you survive, with a pile of cards still here in this deck, everything from the next round will just get added into it, giving you a chance to moderate how much risk and when you're willing to take a risk in this game. The game will get unrelenting and certainly unforgiving at times as enemies get more and more powerful. But remember, the object is just for everyone to survive. If a single player dies at any point, I'm sorry, you've lost the game. So, you're drawing from this deck, you're gaining items, weapons, and special abilities, and at a certain point, you commit to a wave showing up. That wave pops here into the timeline, you engage with them in combat. After everyone's gone, they re-engage with you in combat, dealing damage and, slowly whittling down your health. And then you go back through that cycle. You reset up your exploratory deck, You hunt for that wave card, you potentially cost yourself life again, and eventually you face another wave, another mob of enemies, each with their own custom abilities. Now, each of the characters here are going to have their own stats and their own abilities, but each one of the enemies that you face as well will have variable health and also variable abilities. The way that they interact with, remove barriers, can get hurt by splash damage or maybe not, and how they're going to identify and target. You see, if you have survivors out here in the timeline or the row, or survivors on your player board that you've already equipped, enemies are going to target them first. Sometimes pushing Grandma in front of the gaping zombie's mouth is the only way to save yourself, and ultimately, again, the point of this game is just to survive until daylight. Now, it's not the only thing you can do with the gear that you find. You don't just have to attack the enemies. In fact, you can play a little bit as a team. This is a cooperative game at its heart, and as players go through the exploratory deck, you'll get a chance, once per round, to swap one item between various players. Every one person can swap one item total, giving you a chance to maybe combine unique items to do things like build barricades. Build a little soda can grenade, potentially get some spikes that you can jab into the heart of your enemies, or grab a snare, tripwire, trap, which will allow you to do some damage and moderate just how threatening this is. Now, Survive Until Daylight is based off of the Until Daylight original game, but it's been streamlined and made a little bit more approachable for your kind of local family gaming group. It doesn't have a ton of deep, nuanced strategy in it, but what it does is give you a fun little romp in a zombie-infected woods, and a chance to pull items, grab gear, and embrace the randomness and the chaos that some cooperative games do so well. I really like the artwork, the theme, and the variety of different items you have here, and I find the gameplay, while at times can feel like it's making a decision for you, still gives you a fun pressure luck narrative to play. And at the end of the day, that's the heart of Survive Until Daylight. It's a pressure luck game. It's a timing game. It's a moderate the difficulty, moderate the escalating failure, and do your very best to, well, I've said it about 17 times now, survive. So, with that being said, let's quickly talk about our characters, and then I think that's a preview for this game. We're going to have Walter Davis the Hipster. His main perk: when he attacks, if you use an arrow, you'll draw one additional combat card, doing a little bit of extra damage, and he starts off with the bow and arrow. Now, if he's the first player, if you kill one enemy during your turn, you gain one additional attack this turn, getting to sequence and multiply his actions. We have Cola Laga, main perk: once per turn, when an enemy attacks, you can be the target of that attack. You're the defender. And if you're first player, you take one damage from an attack, the attacker takes one damage as well. You get to push them back a little bit. We have Darius Ali Jr., the Haggler. Once per turn, you can recover a crafting ingredient card used to craft this turn, make more smoke grenades and bombs, and deal with enemies a little bit more efficiently. First player perk: once per turn, you may move one craft token or card from another player to another. A little bit more swapping abilities. We have Armin Macallan, the Drifter. Main perk: you are immune to the effect of red cards. Right here, these cards will affect you in various different ways, none of which are good. And first player perk: when the controller phase equals, if you killed one enemy, draw one rubble card instantly. A few more resources here. We have Dennis Pullman, the Psycho. Main perk: when you attack an enemy, you inflict one damage on an adjacent enemy of your choice. Splash damage can always be useful. And first player perk: when you attack, you can take one damage and inflict one additional damage to your target. And we have D3 at Hot XOXO, the Trigger. Main perk: when you attack, if you use one ammo, draw one additional combat card. And then first player perk: when you attack an enemy, you can spread the damage to one adjacent target. That's the heart of it. With that being said, there's also a slew of flavor text on the back, so let me give you one sample of the world that we're building here. This Armenian woman was beaten by a violent and alcoholic husband. She then had to learn to escape her miserable life by pilfering here and there of small objects that she collected. The day they took shelter in the little country house to escape the end of the world, raiders attacked them. While the couple was getting ready to defend themselves, Armin stole the only weapon with which her husband could have fought. While throwing at him a last vengeful glance, she hid where she collected her stolen objects and witnessed the raiders taking him away. Perhaps to feed the dogs. Now free, a new life could begin with her fork. She wouldn't wait to see what the neighbors might have left behind. So we have a woman with a pitchfork, and D3 at DShotXOXO, the trigger. Troubles. This 15-year-old teen is used to it. After her mom's cancer, she settled down in a shabby campsite with her alcoholic father to escape the crappy reality. The girl plunged into the virtual world and reached the top 10 best wargame players. Easy. At the campers' Christmas Eve, while everyone was waiting for the guard to show up in red and white coat, a bunch of infected brutes decided to crash the party, and they were hungry. The teenager took shelter in her hut with her old man before discovering that he was bleeding badly. Knowing fully that he was going to die soon and probably become one of them, the girl took her father's gun. She also decided to abandon her real name and take her avatar instead. So, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section down below, and let me know who you're going to play first, and whether or not you think you are, in fact, going to survive until daylight. And with that, I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for being here.